is somewhere going below standards with some unnecessary attachment of aggressive decisions. It's a harsh reality. And if you will feel 1% disagreement, then I would suggest you to read newspaper. If newspaper is the pessimist magazine to start the day with, then try replacing it with Bhagavad Gita as your morning read and see the power of this timeless wisdom to begin the day with. A warm welcome to everyone to the program, the Bhagavad Gita, Chanting with Chitra Ganesh. This program is a 7-month-long journey, and today's class session is complimentary for everyone. The program aims to energize your mind with the power of Bhagavad Gita, shlokas, the meanings of those shlokas, under the guidance of our facilitator, Chitra Ganesh. Chitra Ganesh ji, she is a Vedic Chant Teacher in the tradition of T. Krishnamacharya and T. K. Desikacharya. She has been chanting and singing since early childhood. She is based in United States and is joining us from California. Welcoming Chitra ji on the screen. I request hellomyyoga team to put her on spotlight. Thank you so much, Chitra ji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shivani, for that introduction. I welcome you all, those who are joining us live and those who will be watching this recording later. I request all the participants to kindly join their palms and close their eyes. Let's begin with a short prayer. As always, to salute our gurus. And in this session, I will be starting with a prayer to Vedavyasa, who is basically the author of the Mahabharata, in which the Bhagavad Gita is. So we'll start with that, another prayer to the Guru, and then Sahana Bhavatu. So those who know these prayers, kindly join, but keep your microphone muted. Okay. Om Vyasaya Vishnurupaya Vyasarupaya Vishnave Namo Vai Brahmanidhaye Vasishtaya Namo Namaha Gurubhyastadgurubhyascha Namo Vakamadhimahe Vrinimahe cha tatradyau Dampati Jagatampati Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I'd like to share my screen here. Shivani, just let me know if you're able to see this.
Yes, Chitra ji, it's good to go.
Okay, all right. So once again, namaste everyone. As Shivani rightly said, I've been chanting and singing since my childhood. And I grew up in Chennai, actually, in South India. And one of the first few scriptures that I actually encountered in terms of chanting was the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, I think the very first chant that I learned was the Gītā Dhyānam. And I must have been like 4 or 5 years old at that time. And I was so fascinated by, by this chant. And then that led us to, learning the shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita. And my entire childhood was, a very spiritual childhood. It involved a lot of, chanting of the shlokas of the various chapters. We even had chanting competitions in school. I remember that. And we really enjoyed, that time. But when I look back, I realized that, chanting of the shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita pretty much, defined, the path that I took later on in life. I was very fascinated by the shlokas. I was very fascinated by the Samskritam. So even as an adult, I started, studying the Gita. I continued to chant. So that was a very beautiful path that life took me on. So I wanted to share that with you, which is why I told Shivani, let us do this program. So I just want to give you all an overview of this program before we start. So this is going to be primarily a chanting program, and a few verses from the Gita Dhyanam will be taught. Some key verses from the Gita will be taught. Brief explanation of the content and the context of the verses will be explained. And I will also give you an introduction to the Samskritam alphabet, because chanting in Samskritam is very precise. So there is a need for us to understand how to chant, how to pronounce the alphabets, how to chant, how to combine alphabets in Sanskritam. So all of that I will be guiding you with. And I just want to give you, an overview of today's session. So I will begin with the chanting of the Gita Dhyanam. Then I will give you an overview of what the scripture is about. Then what are the benefits of chanting? Then I will give you an introduction to the Sanskritam alphabet. Then I will teach you 2 verses from the Gita Dhyanam. And then the opening and closing prayer template for each chapter. So when we chant the Gita, there is a method with which we chant. So there is an opening prayer, there's a closing prayer. So there's a template for that for each chapter. So I will give you, that information as well. So right now we will begin with the chanting of the Gita Dhyanam, and then we will go on to the overview of the scripture. So I'm just going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to share the screen for the Gita Dhyanam. Just hold on 1 minute. Are you able to see this, Shivani? Are you able to see this, Shivani?
It's good to see. It's good.
Okay, all right. So the Gita Dhyanam is basically also called the Dhyana shlokas. And it's a beautiful ode to the Gita. It is 9 verses in praise of the Gita. And it salutes the Gita as a divine mother. It salutes the author of the Mahabharata, Vyasa. It salutes, the Jagat Guru, Lord Krishna. It salutes various characters in the Mahabharata. It's a beautiful 9-verse composition. And there is a lot of debate about who composed the Gita Dhyanam. But, it's been handed down through the tradition, and it is something that is chanted always in the beginning of a session that involves the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so I'm just going to chant the whole thing. It's going to probably take about 5 to 6 minutes. So follow the Gita Dhyanam from the screen or from a printout that you might have taken, or from your phone or any device that you might have this on. So whatever is comfortable for you. Okay, join your palms. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshini Bhagavati Ashtadashadhyayini Amba Tvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gīte Bhavadveshini Namostute Vyasa Vishala Buddhe Pullarvindayata patra netra yena tvaya bharata taila purnaha prajvalito jnanamaya pradipaha prapanna parijataya totra vetraika panaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gītāmritaduhe Namaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Bhishma Drona Tata Jagat Jayadratha Jala Gandhara Nilotpala Shalya Grahavati Kripena Vahani Karnena Velakula Ashvathama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotirna Khalu Pandavai Rananadi Kaivartaka Keshavaha Parasharya Vachasarojamamalam Gītārtha Gandhotkatam Nānākhyanaka Kesaram Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shatpadairaharaha Pepiyamanam Muda Bhuyad Bharata Kajam Kalimala Pradvamsina Shreyase Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Yam Brahma Varuni Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangha Padakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyantam Navidusura Suragana Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Just a moment, I'll just share the other screen. So that was, those were the 9 verses of the Gita Dhyanam, of which we will be learning 2 verses in today's session. Okay. So I'd just like to give you an overview of the scripture. So what is the Bhagavad Gita? I just want to start with with the compound word Bhagavad Gita itself. So Bhagavad Gita can be split up as Bhagavataha Gita. So basically Bhagavataha is basically of Bhagavan. So it's like a, it is Shashti Vibhakti. So basically the song of, I would request the participants to kindly mute. Yeah, so Bhagavan, basically Bhagavan's song is Bhagavataha Gita. So it is basically, a literal translation is basically the song of the Lord. That's what it is. Some people also say it could be Bhagavata Gita, which is basically a song by Lord Krishna. That also could be an interpretation of the compound word Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is basically a compound word. Okay. So it is contained in the Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata. So basically, all of you know about the Mahabharata that contains 18 Parvas. So the Bhishma Parva is basically the 6th Parva of the Mahabharata, and it is contained in the Bhishma Parva. And the context for the teaching is a battlefield. So this is symbolic, for us, because Arjuna kind of represents all of us. This is the dialogue between Lord Krishna and the warrior Arjuna. So Arjuna kind of, represents all of us, and the battlefield is symbolic for us, as probably we can think about it as the battlefield of life. Okay, so we will talk a little bit more about this, and it has 18 chapters and 700 verses. The entire Gita is 700 verses, and a lot of times, I tell my students that it's such a beautiful scripture. If you can just learn 2 verses per day, you can finish the entire Gita in 1 year. If you can just, read and write 2 verses per day, almost about in a year, you can kind of go through the entire Gita. It's such a beautiful scripture. It is presented in the form of a simple dialogue between teacher and student. And this is what is remarkable about this scripture, because it is so relatable. It is about 2 people having a dialogue. A lot of our Upanishads are in this format, as like, a dialogue between teacher and student, dialogue between father and son. So the dialogue is a very simple dialogue, kind of like, a conversation that you might have with your own friend. Arjuna asks Lord Krishna several questions throughout the scripture. And those questions could be like questions that may crop up in our own mind. And he is comfortable enough to ask those questions to him because he is also his friend. So it is a very, very sweet dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. And, when you study the Gita, you will understand how, what is the beauty of this scripture is its simplicity. Even if you don't know Samskritam, you can certainly, learn a few verses from the scripture, because the combination of the words are very, very simple compared to to Vedic chanting. And we will come to that. So it's presented as a very, very simple dialogue, and it is a beautiful scripture that each and every one of us can relate to. And what is the Bhagavad Gita? So Bhagavad Gita basically equips us with, dynamic everyday spirituality. And what do we mean by that? We mean that, most of the time we think spirituality is something that we need to go away from this world, or we need to leave our families and we need to do that, or we need to engage in something else, which is different from our daily life. But, the Bhagavad Gita brings us back to the basics. Lord Krishna, he encourages Arjuna to, fulfill his duty as a warrior. And basically, when we study the scripture, we will understand that, everyday actions can become spiritual. It is about, every action, every thought, every emotion can be spiritual. That's what Krishna equips us with. There is this notion that, spirituality is a very, glamorous thing that we need to, show the world that I'm being spiritual and I'm, giving up this and I'm giving up that. But that is really not what spirituality is. Spirituality is a very, very individual path. It is a very personal path. It is not something that we need, to show anybody. It is not about, it is not a competition that we have with anybody else. It is about me and my individual journey. And spirituality is basically something that will take us forward towards the ultimate goal of moksha. That's what, all our scriptures say, that all of us, while we are in this world, whether we understand it or not, whether we agree or not, whether we accept it or not, we are on this path towards the final goal of permanent happiness. Now, we are all seeking it in this world. We, we may look for happiness in everyday things. We may look for happiness, say, we go and watch a movie, or we, we may listen to some music. But, at the end of the day, we will realize that all of those happinesses are fleeting, because the world is constantly changing. So all of these scriptures, including the Bhagavad Gita, which we'll come to, basically, are leading us towards that ultimate happiness. And according to these scriptures, it may take us one lifetime, it may take us several lifetimes. It depends on where you are in your spiritual path. So if you actually think about it, in a family, there can be, several people in a family can be on a different, further ahead on their spiritual path or behind on their spiritual path. So it is very difficult to say that I am spiritually, better than somebody else, because everybody is on their own journey. So that's what Krishna, the study of the Gita will make you and help you understand that this is about you. And this is about your everyday actions. It is not, Krishna says that, there is not a single time in our lives when we don't act. So even sleep is an action. Everything is an action. And how do we do these actions well is basically what the Gita teaches us. And what is beautiful is that when we study the Gita, we will understand that this teaching is relevant to each and every one of us. And each and every one of us, when we chant these shlokas, when we study them, we will find that we have something in it for us. And every time we chant a shloka, every time we study the Gita, we will find something new that will take us forward on our spiritual path. And that's what we are trying to do. We are trying to move forward on our spiritual path. Anytime you perform an action where you feel that, you feel the peace within, you feel connected with yourself, you can understand that you have moved forward in your spiritual path. But if you feel that, you have moved away from yourself, you have moved away from, that peace within, you can understand that you have gone, maybe 2-3 steps backward, and you need to move forward once again. So each and every day is an opportunity for us to move forward spiritually. Each and every shloka that we chant from the Bhagavad Gita is an opportunity for us to move forward spiritually. Each and every study of the scripture that we do is an opportunity for us to move forward spiritually. So this is about, all of these scriptures and Vedic tradition. We have, a spiritual part to who we are, like, the spirit as well as matter. Matter is constantly changing. Spirit is the unchanging part. So basically what we are trying to do is we are trying to purify the mind. See, all of these scriptures are about purifying the mind. All of these philosophies are about purifying the mind. The Vedas are leading us very beautifully towards that ultimate purity, which will, help us realize who we are. And, the Bhagavad Gita is, there is a closing prayer that I will be teaching you today that basically tells us that the Bhagavad Gita is like the essence of the Upanishads. An essence of the Upanishads, meaning Bhagavad Gita is basically Vedanta philosophy. So to quickly tell you, the Vedas are, basically this huge body of scriptures which have come to us directly from the divine in our tradition. And all of these philosophies that are based on the Vedas, there are 6 philosophies that are based on the Vedas: Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Mimamsa, and Vedanta. So basically, the Bhagavad Gita is a scripture that is the essence of the Upanishads, which basically means it is basically Vedanta philosophy. And the Bhagavad Gita is basically referred to as a Smriti Prasthana. And in Vedanta, there are 3 scriptures that are considered to be important. Shruti Prasthana, which is basically the Upanishads. Smriti Prasthana, which is basically the Bhagavad Gita. And the Nyaya Prasthana, which is basically the Brahma Sutras, which are basically, the core text of Vedanta philosophy, which was also written by Vedavyasa. Okay, so basically once again, to just kind of, give an overview of the scripture is basically leading us towards that ultimate happiness. And when we study the scripture, basically what we are doing is we are equipping ourselves with various sadhanas so that we can purify the mind and we can realize the ultimate truth. Maybe not in this lifetime, maybe in this lifetime. It all depends on where you are in your spiritual path. And there is a very systematic way in which Krishna does that for us. It is very beautiful, very beautifully laid out. He is the ultimate teacher. That's why we say Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. That is one of the shlokas that I will be teaching you. He's the ultimate teacher. He repeats several concepts for Arjuna. How many ever times he asks those questions are answered by Krishna systematically. He reiterates, he summarizes the way in fact, he's a role model, I would say, for teachers, because the way he teaches this knowledge is so beautiful, and there's so much simplicity in the way he puts forth this knowledge. And that is what is so beautiful about this scripture. Okay, so this teaching, as I said, is relevant to all of us. Now, I just want to quickly touch upon what is the difference between Shruti and Smriti. So Shruti is basically the Vedas, and they are called Shruti because they were heard and they have come to us directly from the divine. And there are some rules for Vedic chanting which have to be diligently followed, because this is an oral tradition and it has been handed down to us through the ages. So there cannot be any change in the way the shloka, the mantras are chanted from the Vedas. And there are swaras, there is a lot of rules for Vedic chanting. But Smriti is basically a composition that is based on the Vedas. So the Bhagavad Gita is considered to be a Smriti because the Bhagavad Gita has an author. And basically the Bhagavad Gita, there are rules for chanting, of course, because it is in Samskrtam, which is a divine language. We cannot tamper with this language. There are various rules as to how to pronounce the words. But in terms of chanting, there can be differences in chanting. There can be differences in tradition. So one tradition may chant the shloka in a different way. Another tradition may chant the shloka in a different way. So those differences in rendition is allowed, because Smriti is a little bit more flexible than Shruti. Shruti has to be chanted exactly the way it has been presented. So that is the difference between Shruti and Smriti. Okay. So I just want to touch upon why do we need to chant the Gita? As I, told you, it is such a beautiful tradition. We come from an oral tradition. Sound is such a beautiful, element which encompasses this entire world. So it's such a beautiful way of connecting with the scripture. It's an oral tradition. It brings you closer to the parampara. And I have seen that no matter, where, anybody is from the world, when, they encounter, chanting in Samskritam, almost everybody is able to connect. And I would say any tradition, any kind of tradition, chanting in any tradition, I think pretty much all of us can, relate with that. So sound is such a beautiful way for us to connect with a scripture. So that is one of the beautiful things. And it's a beautiful tool for spiritual practice. We call it a swadhyaya in our tradition. And in fact, in yoga philosophy, also in the commentary to the Yoga Sutras, Vyasa calls swadhyaya chanting of mantras. Like one of the ways, you can practice swadhyaya, which is basically to gain the knowledge of your own self. One of the ways to do that is through chanting. So it's a very, very beautiful tool, as you will understand as we learn the shlokas through this journey, 7-month-long journey. Okay. And as I told you, the highest Vedic teachings are the Upanishads. They are like the cream of the Vedas. They contain the highest truths. And, we are so fortunate that the highest teachings of the Vedas are presented to us in such simple language, simple shlokas. So we are able to connect with, the ultimate truth through these simple shlokas. And often, as I told you, as a child, I chanted the Gita, and that led me to a study of the scripture. So most of the time you may start with chanting a verse, and that may lead you to try to understand that verse, and then that can take you deeper into the scripture, and then you start getting deeper into the tradition and to the essence of what the Vedas are trying to convey. And basically, when we chant, definitely positive vibrations enhance health and well-being. That is something that anybody who has chanted will understand, because these alphabets are so divine. And when we chant, we are able to bring the mind to focus, and we are able to connect with the vibrations of the chant. Okay, so that's basically one of why we need to chant the Gita. So there are some additional benefits of chanting, which I will just quickly go through. Obviously, chanting, improves your concentration, makes you more patient. Many times when we have to learn chanting from a teacher, we need to listen very closely. So it definitely makes you a better listener. And since Samskritam is so precise, we need to listen to the way the teacher is pronouncing the words, pronouncing the alphabets. And it requires a lot of meditative focus to be able to do that. And certainly when we chant shlokas, we are able to work with the voice. It helps you find your voice. It helps you to communicate better. It enhances the energy around this area. So it basically allows you to connect with others through your voice in a much better way. Certainly, it helps you with your breathing, because chanting is something that we use our breath to breathe, to chant. Obviously, chanting is an extended exhale. When I say "Om," I've taken an inhale and I'm extending my Om on my exhale. So it helps me to extend my exhale. It helps me to work with the breath. It makes my breathing more efficient. So it's a beautiful way of, in fact, it's almost like a pranayama. Definitely increases attention to detail, refines the senses, listening, chanting, absorbing. All of this these are very beautiful benefits of chanting. Okay, so I'm just going to go to the Samskritam alphabet. I just want to ask if there is, if everybody is with me, and if anybody has a question, feel free to ask.
All okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other question? Any comment?
All clear till now to me.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So I just want to take a few moments to talk about the Samskritam alphabet. This is important because we are going to be chanting in Samskritam, so bear with me. So the Samskritam alphabet has 13 vowels and 33 consonants. Okay. So the vowels in Samskritam are called Swaraha. And, I have got these down in both Devanagari, which is basically the script of Samskritam. And I have also got it down in Roman transliteration. Okay, so those who are not able to read Devanagari can certainly look at these and be able to read, scriptures in Samskritam. So this is called the International Alphabet of Samskritam Transliteration or something like that. There is a standardized thing. So those of you who don't know Devanagari, it is worth learning the transliteration so that you are able to read words correctly or able to pronounce them correctly, learn how to, learn this transliteration. It's totally worth it if you are not from the tradition, or even if you are from India and you don't know how to read Samskritam, you can be helped by learning this transliteration. So basically the vowels are A, I, U, R, A, I, O, Au, Aha, and there is another vowel which is not, used that often. It is L. Basically, this is L. Okay, so there are basically matras, like this would be considered a short matra. This would be considered a long matra. So this is like a 1 count. This is like a 2 count. So like this is A, I, U, R, A, I, O, Ow. So these are long matras as well, even though they don't have the line. A, I, O, Ow. And this is called an anuswara. This is called a visarga. Okay, and aha. Okay, basically these will be added to these consonants. So if you look at this list of consonants, basically what has happened is that this vowel A is already added to this list of consonants. So we can pronounce these consonants by adding vowels. So if I add the vowel A to the consonant K, it becomes K. If I add the vowel A to the consonant K, then it becomes A, Ka, okay, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. So basically the vowels are added to the consonants so that we are able to pronounce them. Okay, I hope that much is clear. So basically what these rows are is basically the first row is basically guttural sounds. So basically
so you mean to say without the vowel sound, they cannot be pronounced, like
yeah, it would be
k, okay.
But when I add the A, then it becomes Ka. Okay. When I add an A, it becomes a Ka. When I add a E, it becomes a Ki. When I add an E, it becomes a Ki. So each of these consonants can potentially be combined with a vowel so that they can be pronounced properly. Okay. And according to whatever is there in that particular word. So there are various consonants, and the first set of consonants are guttural consonants. So they are pronounced from the back of the throat. So basically they are Ka, Kha, Ga, Gha, Nga. So you will realize that these consonants are pronounced from the back of the throat. Then there are palatal consonants, which are Cha, Cha, Ja, Jha, Nya. Okay, so these are pronounced by the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. When you pronounce them, you will understand what I mean by that. Then there are cerebral sounds, which are pronounced by rolling the tongue and touching the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So you're rolling the tongue, touching the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. And dental sounds are pronounced by touching the back, the tongue to the back of the teeth. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. Okay. Labial sounds are pronounced by bringing the lips together. Pa, kha, ba, bha, ma. And semi-vowels, they are pronounced from somewhere in between these places. Ya, ra, la, va. And then we have sibilants, sha, sha, sa, and ha. Okay. So the sha, as you can see in all of these transliterations, they have the dot below. So when we pronounce them, we basically roll the tongue. So this sha is pronounced by rolling the tongue and touching the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. So as we learn the shlokas, I will point out, I will also explain how to pronounce the words. So don't worry about that if this is too much. You just need to know that the Samskritam alphabet is very, very specific, and it needs to be pronounced from, from the proper place in the mouth. Otherwise, if you say sha when you mean a sha, it can change the meaning of the word. So basically, it's very important to be very precise. And there are some things that I want to point out for people who don't read Devanagari. Like, for example, Cha in transliteration is CA. A lot of times people get confused with this, that why is CA cha, and why isn't it CHA as we might think that it should be. So, just to kind of, get used to this, look at this table several times. In case you are going to be looking at the transliteration, look at this table several times so that you get familiar with the way Sanskrit is represented in Roman transliteration. Okay, like for example, na with a dot above is na, and na with n with a dot below is na, and na without any of these is a dental sound. So just kind of get familiar with this, so just, as we go through it, you will understand what I mean. Okay. So after all that background, we finally come to the chanting of the verses. Okay. So the very first verse that I'm going to teach you is from the Gītā Dhyānam. So the very first chant that I did, which was the 9 verses. So in that there was a verse, Sarvopanishado Gavo. So I'll just basically go through the words, and I will explain to you how to pronounce the words and what is the basic meaning of this shloka. And then we will go through the chanting of this verse. It's a beautiful verse which kind of summarizes what the Gita is. So, Sarvopanishado Gavo. Sarvopanishado Gavo. That basically means Sarva Upanishadaha. That is all the entire essence of the Upanishads, or all the Upanishads. So all the Upanishads are the cows. Okay, Gavo is basically the cows. So if you consider the Upanishads, all the Upanishads to be the cows, Dogdha Gopala Nandanaha. So basically Dogdha. So when we have cows, we need a milkman. So basically the milkman over here is basically Lord Krishna. Okay, so Gopala is one of the names of Krishna, which basically means protector of the cows. Okay, Gopala Nandanaha. So basically we are talking about Krishna here, and he is the milkman of the cows. If we consider the Upanishads to be the Upanishads to be the cows, then Krishna is the milkman. Okay. Partho Vatsa Sudhir Bhokta. So Parthaha over here is Arjuna. So Arjuna, another name for Arjuna is Parthaha, and over here it is Partho because of the rules of Samskritam. When a particular, if aha is followed by a particular alphabet, then it becomes O. There are various rules in Samskritam for that. But Partho basically here is Parthaha. Okay. And Vatsaha over here basically is calf. Okay, calf. So basically Arjuna is the calf. Sudhir is basically wise men, and Bhokta. So basically they are also the drinkers of this milk, wise men. Dugdham, which is what is the milk? The milk is Gita Amritam. Basically the nectar of the Gita is the milk. Okay, so this is such a beautiful verse which kind of summarizes what the Bhagavad Gita is, that it is the essence of the Upanishads, and the one who is presenting it to us in such a beautiful manner is basically Lord Krishna. Okay, so the way to pronounce these words, okay, Sarvopanishado Gavo. So basically when we say va in Sanskritam, we need to bring the teeth to the lower lip. Okay, Sarvo. Sarvopanishado. So if you note over here, S with a dot below, or those who are looking at Devanagari, it is sh. Okay. So I'm just going to be looking at the Roman transliteration for the sake of those who are joining us from other parts of the world. Okay. Sarvopanishado Gavo. Okay. Gavo, va, with the teeth touching the lower lip. Dogdha. So Dogdha. The O over here is pronounced as O, Dogdha. Okay, and as you can see that this is a long sound, Dogdha, Gopala Nandanaha. So basically Gopala Nandanaha. So there is a H at the end of it with a dot below, which is basically the Visarga, as you can see it in Devanagari, Gopala Nandanaha. Partho. Partho, and TH is basically a th sound. Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhokta. Okay, but when we chant Vatsaha followed by Sudhir, through the rules of chanting, this becomes Vatsas Sudhir. Vatsas Sudhir. This is one of the rules of chanting, that when a Visarga is followed by an S, then it becomes like a double S sound. So Partho Vatsas Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gītā Mritam Mahat. So Mahat, even though it is Mahat, when it comes at the end of a sentence, basically it is pronounced as Mahat. Okay, and these lines that you see at the end of this verse basically are called dandas, and those are basically the equivalent of full stops or periods in Samskritam. Okay, so this denotes the end of the first line, and this denotes, this double danda over here denotes the end of the second line. Okay, so now I'm going to chant this verse, and just follow me here. Like just go through the the verse as I chant it, and then I will chant each line twice, so that the first time you can listen to me and the second time you can chant with me, and then we'll just go through the whole verse. Okay, I'm just going to say Om for the pitch. Om Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat. Now I will chant each line twice, and I will break over here. Sarvopanishado Gavo. You can repeat. Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat. Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat. Now once more, I will chant the whole line now twice. Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandanaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat. Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat. I'll just pause for a moment here. In case anybody has any questions regarding the pronunciation of this or the chanting of this, you may ask me now.
Ma'am, this sh, the second sh, this S with a dot, you said that you have to say it with touching the back of the teeth.
Tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. So it's Upanishado. So you will find that it is a sharper sound compared to Shiva.
Sure.
Yeah. So there is a sharper sound. So you will get used to it the more you chant it.
Okay.
So basically that's what it is. Anybody else with any other questions?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi. My question is, when you mentioned it's not about the pronunciation, it's about the supreme nectar of Gita. You said that the protector of the cause. Is it cause you said? I couldn't understand.
Cows. COWS.
COWS, the cows, like a
Yeah.
like an
Yeah.
animal cow.
Yes, the animal
Oh,
cow.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
thank you so much.
yeah, no problem. It's about my accent. Good that you clarified that. Basically, over here, Krishna is represented as the milkman of
Mhm.
the cow herd.
Okay, that's why you said the nectar of the Gita is the milk.
Yes, the nectar of the
Oh,
Gita is the milk.
now makes sense. Thank you for clarifying.
Who am I speaking with?
My name is Regina.
Okay, Regina. Okay, yeah, nice to meet you, Regina.
Very nice to meet you.
I was able to clarify that. And another thing that I wanted to clarify here is that when we have this R with a dot below also, it is basically mr. Again, it is when we roll the tongue and touch the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. That is the way we pronounce that. So mritam. So that's the way to pronounce that. So we can just go through the pronunciation once again. Sarvopa nishado gavo dogdha gopala nandanaha partho vatsas sudhir bhokta dugdham gita mritam mahat. Okay, and I would like all of you to learn this because when we come back next time, this will be the prayer. This and the verse that I'm going to be teaching you next time is going to be the prayer for the next few sessions. Because these verses are so beautiful and they kind of summarize and bring out the essence of this. Okay. So the next verse that I want to teach you is basically about Krishna, the teacher of the universe. Okay, he is referred to as Jagat Guru. Jagat Guru basically means the teacher of the universe. Okay, so this verse is also from the Gita Dhyānam, the 9-verse ode to the Gita that I chanted in the beginning. So the way to pronounce these words is Vasude Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. So just to look at the Devanagari, Vasude Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Okay, this is a beautiful verse which salutes Krishna as the teacher of the universe. So what does it say? Vasude Vasutam. So he is basically the son of Vasudeva. So Vasudeva Sutam. Vasudeva Sutam. Devam. So I'm saluting the god or the divinity who is the son of Vasudeva. Kamsa Chanura Mardanam. Kamsa Chanura Mardanam. So basically the slayer of, these are two evil characters in the story of Krishna, Kamsa and Chanura. So Kamsa Chanura Mardanam. So basically the slayer of these two evil characters. Devaki Paramanandam. Oh, there's an error here. I apologize. It's Devaki. It should be a long I. I'll correct that next time. Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Okay. Devaki Paramanandam basically means the supreme joy of Devaki. Devaki is the name of his mother. Krishnam Vande. Vande basically means I salute, like Vande Mataram. Vande Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Jagat Gurum is basically Jagat. Over here it becomes Jagat Gurum because of the rules of Samskritam. So I salute Krishna, the teacher of the universe. Such a beautiful verse. So the way to chant this is, I'm just going to say Om for the pitch. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Now I'll chant each line twice. So try to chant the second time with me. Listen the first time and then chant with me the second time. Vasudevasutam Devam Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Now each whole line twice. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. I apologize again. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam. Repeat. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Any questions here? Regarding the pronunciation, regarding, the chanting. Okay, I want to, if there are no questions, I'd just like to point out a couple of things. Kamsa Chanura. Remember I said CA in transliteration represents cha. Okay, so cha over here because it is followed by a long vowel. Chanura, N with a dot below. Over here in Devanagari, it is rolling the tongue, touching the tip of the tongue to the roof of the mouth. Chanura, it is a long sound here. Mardanam, Devaki, just replace this with a I with a line on top. Devaki Paramanandam and Krishnam. See, if you see over here, R with a dot, S with a dot, N with a dot. So all of them, Krishnam. All of them are sharp sounds and they are meant to be pronounced with the tip of the tongue touching the roof of the mouth. Okay. Vande Jagadgurum. So I salute the teacher of the universe. That's what this verse means. It's a beautiful verse from the Gita Dhyānam. Okay. Now next, I'd like to teach you the opening prayer and the template basically for the opening prayer and the template for the closing prayer. Okay, so every time we chant the Gita, each chapter is preceded by this opening prayer. Okay, and it begins like this. I'll just chant this for the first chapter and then I will explain. Okay. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha Atha Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Atha Prathamodhyayaha Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. So before the first chapter, I would chant this. If I was about to chant the first chapter, I would chant this as an opening prayer. So let's go through this line by line. Okay, Om is basically representative of the supreme reality. Like in the Vedas, Om iti Brahma. So Om represents the supreme reality itself. So whenever we chant Om, we always pause after Om, out of reverence for Om. So we never chant, even in Vedic chanting, we chant Om, and then we chant the verse, okay, whatever it might be. Om Sahana Bhavatu, like that. So basically after Om, there's always a pause out of respect. Okay. Shri Paramatmane Namaha. So we are saluting the Paramatma, which is basically the supreme consciousness. Okay. And so basically when we say Paramatmane, so Paramatma, when we say I salute, then it is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. It is the fourth case of Paramatma, which becomes Paramatmane. Okay, it's like Krishnaya Namaha. When it is Paramatma, it becomes Paramatmane Namaha. Mitraya Namaha, you might have heard all these, so anything which is followed by Namaha is basically in the fourth case. So Paramatma, Paramatmane, okay, so Paramatmane Namaha, so I salute the supreme consciousness. Atha Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So again, I'm saluting, I'm saying Atha is basically a divine way of saying that now I'm beginning the chanting of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so Atha Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Holy Gita. And as I said, Bhagavad Gita is a compound word. Over here, another word has been added to make it a compound, Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You might also hear the Bhagavad Gita being referred to as Gītopadeshaha. Some of you might have also heard that Gītopadeshaha, which basically means, the discourse of the Gita. So Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So when we say Atha, it is a word that is, it is considered to be like a Mangala Shabda. So basically, whenever we start a scripture, we start with Atha. Like even in Yoga Sutra chanting, we say Om Atha Samadhi Padaha. So we start with Atha. So all scriptures in tradition are chanted with this word Atha, which is considered to be a very, very auspicious beginning, a very auspicious start. Okay. Atha Prathamodhyayaha. So Prathamaha Adhyayaha becomes a compound word, which is Prathamodhyayaha. Okay. So this apostrophe that you see here is basically representative of the alphabet A. So Adhyayaha. So Prathamodhyayaha. So if you see this Avagraham in Devanagari, it is representative of the A, which is part of the word Adhyayaha. So Adhyayaha is basically chapter. Okay, there are 18 chapters, and Prathamaha Adhyayaha indicates the first chapter. Okay, so Atha Prathamodhyayaha. So when it becomes a compound word, it becomes Prathamodhyayaha. And when I say Atha, again, it is an auspicious beginning for this particular chapter. Okay, and Arjuna Vishada Yogaha is basically the name of the chapter. Every chapter ends with the word Yogaha. The first chapter is called Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. So it's basically Arjuna's grief or Arjuna's dilemma is basically the name of the first chapter. And the reason why I have this in a different color over here is basically because this will change with every chapter. Okay, this remains the same with every chapter, but this part will change with every chapter. So if I were to say, if I were to chant the opening prayer for the second chapter, I would say, Atha Dvitiyodhyayaha. If I was chanting for the third chapter, Atha Tritiyodhyayaha. And if I was chanting for the fourth chapter, Atha Chaturthodhyayaha. So you get the general idea. So basically this will be replaced by the number of that particular chapter. Okay, and this will be replaced by the name of the chapter. So for example, if it is the second chapter, it would be Sankhya Yogaha. If it's the third chapter, Karma Yoga. So basically this is basically the name of the chapter. Okay. So I would chant it like this. Atha Prathamo Dhyayaha Arjuna Vishada Yoga. If it was second chapter, Atha Dvitiyo Dhyayaha Sankhya Yoga. Third chapter, Atha Tritiyo Dhyayaha Karma Yoga. So at some point, I mean, as we go through these sessions, I will give you the names of all the chapters, and I will give you the names as we go through, and we are going to be hopefully going through, a few verses from every chapter. So as we go through that, I will give you the number in Samskritam as well as the name in Samskritam, so that you are able to chant this on your own. Okay, so let's go through this opening prayer. So I will chant each line twice, and you can listen the first time and you can chant the second time. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Atha Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Atha Prathamo Dhyayaha. Atha Prathamo Dhyayaha Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Now I'll chant the whole thing again. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Atha Prathamo Dhyayaha Arjuna Vishada Yoga. I'll just pause for a moment. Does anybody have any questions? Or is it clear? Okay. So this is basically the template for the opening prayer. Okay, so now what is the template for the closing prayer? So when we chant a chapter, at the end of it, we chant this beautiful closing prayer, which kind of, summarizes the essence of the Gita and, what is its purpose. And then it kind of also states which chapter, again, the same thing, the name of the chapter and the number of the chapter. Okay, so it is basically, it goes like this. Om Tat Saditi. It is basically Tat Sat Iti. Okay, Tat Saditi. Because of the rules of Samskritam, Tat Om Tat Sat is basically indicative of the supreme reality. And because of the rules of Samskritam, Om Tat Sat Iti, it becomes Tat Saditi. Okay, so we chant it like that. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su. So basically in the Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads. So basically we are indicating it is the essence of the Upanishads. Brahma Vidyayam. Basically we are talking about Brahma Vidya, or knowledge of the supreme knowledge of Brahma. Yoga Shastri. This is basically a Yoga Shastra. So to get to that knowledge of Brahma, we need the path of yoga. And there are various paths, yogic paths, that are indicated by Krishna in this beautiful scripture. So Yoga Shastre, in this Yoga Shastra, Shri Krishnarjuna Samvade. So basically it is a dialogue, Samvadaha. Samvade, that is in this dialogue, basically, between whom? Between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, basically the Lord and his student, or, the divine and this warrior called Arjuna, who, kind of represents all of us. Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama. So Arjuna Vishada Yogaha is basically the name of the chapter. But through the rules of Samskritam, when we chant this, it becomes Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama. Nama basically means name. And Prathamodhyayaha. Again, Prathamodhyayaha, the first chapter, which is basically Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. Okay. So I will just chant this whole prayer and then we will go through it line by line. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gītā Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. We'll go through it again line by line. So listen the first time and try to chant the second time. Om Tat Saditi. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gītā Su Shrimad Bhagavad Gītā Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna excuse me, Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. Any questions? Then I will chant it once more.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So once again, just to kind of point out, Upanishadsu, this is a sharper S sound. Srimad Bhagavad Gītā Su. So basically E, A, these are long sounds. Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishnarjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. Okay, so I'll just chant this whole thing again. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gītā Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamodhyayaha. Okay, so this is basically the closing prayer template. Okay, and this is basically chanted at the end of each and every chapter. Okay. So, as I told you, probably from the next time onwards, there was another verse that I want to teach. Probably I can teach it next time. The one that I chanted in the beginning, Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave, Namo Vai Brahma Nidhaye, Vasishthaya Namo Namaha. I think that verse will also be a good opening prayer for us. So I will teach that next time. And followed by Sarvopanishado Gavo, then Vasudeva Sutam Devam, and then followed by whatever verses that we choose for that particular session. So I want to once again reiterate that this is primarily a chanting session. But when we do look at verses, definitely with explanation, there might be a little bit of a discussion, or the context of the verse might be explained, because it is very difficult to sort of teach the chanting of verses without explaining the context. And I think that kind of leads us to the study of the scripture. Certainly we can start with chanting, but I'm sure that there will be some kind of context that will come up. There might be some explanation that will come up. There might be a word that might not be clear. What is the context of that particular word in the bigger picture of the Bhagavad Gita, or in the bigger picture of the Mahabharata? So all of these questions are going to come up, and I hope this was useful. Before I close today's session, I will be chanting these 4 once again. But before that, I want to know if you found this useful. Was this too much of information? Because for people who are not familiar with chanting in Sanskritam, this is a lot of information. And like to how do you place the tongue when you chant a particular word, or how do you pronounce a particular alphabet? It requires a little bit of effort and practice. I know that Shivani is going to be sharing the recording of this. So you can go through the recording, you can listen, over and over again. At the end of the day, I think chanting is a very, very beautiful tool to connect with the scripture. And, the more you chant the verses, the more you connect with the essence of what the scripture is trying to teach us. And, chanting is considered to be one of those, actions that we do, which basically, we dedicate, like automatically when we chant a verse, we dedicate that verse to the universe. We dedicate that verse to the divine. This is almost, always the feeling that one gets when we chant a verse. So when we chant and we dedicate it, so we automatically are bringing more positivity into the system. We are bringing more of the essence of the scripture into our system. It certainly can take us forward on this path. So if anybody has any questions or any comments before I chant once again and close the session, anything.
I would like to add it, Chitraji, Shivani here from hellomyyoga.
Yeah, sure.
Chitraji, I have always wondered, listening this, that we Indians used to follow oral tradition,
Yes.
where teacher used to speak and student used to listen, and from that oral tradition we used to learn chanting. So
Yes.
I used to wonder that how much focus we have to be, in that listening effort, that we have to focus on each and every syllable of that chanting.
Yes, I
and
agree.
Today I witnessed it. Honestly, today I witnessed it. Your chanting, your approach, it was so very well explained. It was so mesmerizing that all my senses were focused only on listening. Thank you so much, Chitraji.
Thank you, Shivani. I also want to add to that by saying, one of the things that, when I was learning chanting as a child, like when I was chanting these verses, I don't remember ever looking at a book. It was always listening to the teacher and, learning, just the way Shivani said, I think much later on in life, I might have looked at a book to chant something. So that was the way it was done in the old days. And, the capacity that, the previous generations and in tradition, people had to absorb chants just through listening. I come from the tradition of Acharya Krishnamacharya, and I believe he used to know Vedic chants, large chants by heart. The students used to be looking at the script, but he used to be chanting from memory. In fact, it is said that he knew the entire Mahabharata by heart, like 1 lakh shlokas. He knew them by heart. So the capacity of the human mind to absorb and to remember is so vast. It's just that we need to purify the mind so that we are able to tap into that capacity. Each and every one of us has this capacity. It's not like, about one person being able to, do more than the others. It's about the effort that we put into it. So this is one of the reasons why Vedic chanting and chanting is considered to be a world, something, I don't remember what it's called, world heritage. It needs to be preserved or something like that. So I totally agree with that notion, because this is something that we need to preserve, we need to nurture, we need to nourish. And this is not, for a particular section in society or for anybody, any particular person in this. This is for all of us. Krishna is, Jagat Guru. He's the teacher of the universe. So this knowledge is for each and every one of us. And as I said in the beginning, the more we study the scripture, the more we will realize that, it is so relevant to me. This is so relevant to my daily living. How am I living? How am I acting? How am I thinking? How am I, what are my emotions? How am I serving? Each and every a moment of our life can be spiritual. And Krishna so beautifully teaches that to us in the Bhagavad Gita. So any other questions or comments from anybody?
Just one more thing to add, Chitraji. Friends, I would like to end this program only with Chitraji's chanting only. So just before that, I would like to tell that we have been sending messages to all the participants about how you can enroll for next 6 months journey. That is one thing. So in the 6-month journey, you will chant, you will explore, and you will apply in your daily life these shlokas, what Chitraji will be teaching us. And you'll have the recordings for 3 months with you so that you can go back to the chapters, practice the way she has taught you. And you'll be getting in another 10 minutes in your registered email address, you'll be getting an email which has all the details about it. You might have already started getting the WhatsApp messages also. So that's it. So we'll give it to Chitraji. Chitraji, now the program is all yours and you can end it.
Okay, all right. So once again, we will chant this verse. Om Sarvopanishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanam Danaha Partho Vatsasudhir Bhokta Dogdham Gītāmritam Mahat. Next verse. Vasudevasutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Opening prayer. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Atha Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Atha Prathamo Dhyāyaha. Arjuna Vishada Yogaha. Closing prayer. Om Tat Saditi Shrimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Arjuna Vishada Yogo Nama Prathamo Dhyāyaha. I'll stop sharing my screen. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being part of the session.
Thank you, Chitra ji. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you, Chitra ji. Thank you,
Thank
Shivani.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.